In episode 3 of Made to Drift, we'll be covering the K24 engine build, turbo kit fabrication, suspension setup, and the wiring and lighting system on Chris Jeanneret's Honda S2000.
So tonight we got the engine package back together, and I'm super excited to bring over some of my sponsors from last year with Wiseco K1 providing a rotational assembly for the engine. And we actually have a couple of new sponsors for the program that SpeedFactory Racing has brought on board. Want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so Skunk 2 partnered up with the build and they did the valve train. We're doing the Ultra Series intake manifold, 90mm throttle body, obviously cams, springs, retainers, and then the Golden Eagle sleeved K24 block is what we're running with the whole assembly. So here we have Chris Jeanneret's fully built K24 engine with the Ballard Sports adapter plate for the transmission, the Hossport engine mounts, and the Tex Racing G-Force dog box transmission.
The turbo manifold I designed for this build is constructed of 1.5 inch Schedule 40 stainless steel, and there's a 4-to-1 merge collector with an elbow coming up to the turbine inlet, and the wastegate is prioritized right before the turbine inlet, so we'll have precise boost control. Us, Chris, and Garrett together came up with this turbocharger. It's a Garrett GTX4088R. It's a ball bearing turbocharger, and we have a 3.5 inch downpipe going out the back.
Hey, so I'm Derek. I'm one of the fabricators here at SpeedFactory, working on Chris's S2000 project, finishing up one of the last pieces for it right now as far as fabrication goes, which is the oil catch can.
Derek designed this catch can with a single dash 16 fitting. We normally use a couple dash 10s, but for this particular vehicle we chose dash 16 because we need to alleviate as much crankcase pressure as possible, and this will also keep the setup really nice and tidy in the engine bay and be easy to service.
Let's talk for a minute about the heat exchangers we developed for Chris's car. We configured it in a V-mount setup, so the radiator is down here. The reason it's mounted this way rather than the traditional straight up and down is the radiator is not behind the intercooler. They're not heat soaking each other. Well, we're going to put a splitter here in between the two that will keep the heat from the radiator from rising into the intercooler and heat soaking it. Aside from the heat exchangers, I developed this Swirl Pot here. Basically what that does is it de-aerates the coolant that is passing through the system. When it enters here at the top, it will swirl, the water, the coolant will swirl as it comes back through into the radiator, and when it does that, it releases the air from the system and it will bleed out here and eventually end up in the header tank. Failure is not an option, so we decided to go with these Vibrant Performance VanJen couplers here for the turbo setup. Basically, we choose these for a number of reasons, but mostly because they are really reliable, leak-free, and they allow for some movement in the system, unlike a V-band, and they're more reliable than a coupler.
For 2014, we teamed up with Bilstein Suspension. We chose them because they actually won the championship last year with Michael Jessup. They've been making suspension longer than I think anybody in America, so they are actually an OEM manufacturer for Toyota and a lot of other brands as well. Their background and their knowledge and their engineering is by far some of the best and most superior in the world. It has a custom spring rate we've chosen for this specific setup, and we'll actually be working with Bilstein later in the year developing some new suspension for the S2000 to further progress the program.
So for the rear differential, we went with a Nissan 300ZX diff. Inline Pros supplied us with this awesome billet kit to adapt it right into the factory subframe. This allows us to not worry about the factory S2000 diff exploding under the massive clutch kicks we do with our 1,000 horsepower SpeedFactory engine. We were also supplied a drive shaft from Drive Shaft Shop. We got their new latest and greatest carbon fiber, which is ultra strong and ultra light, and it's going to take some abuse this season.
So this is the second year in a row we're actually working with Ryan Basari of Rywire. He's been one of the best guys I've ever dealt with when it comes to wiring. He takes an idea and makes it a work of art. This car Literally, we plugged and played it, and it just went together so easy. Everything fit amazing, had just enough length where it needed it and not where it didn't. It's all done with Raychem DR25, it's mil-spec connectors. Everything on the car is flawless. It started up, no wiring issues, no issues at all with our AEM Infinity ECU. So I'm excited to introduce a new company we're working with this year. VLEDS has supplied us with our full lighting kit for the car. We're going to be running their V3 Triton brake light bulbs, which are extremely bright, which is going to be awesome for all those great tandem events with lots of tire smoke for my competitors to actually see me through the smoke and not run into me. So it's been a really crazy preseason this year. Me and SpeedFactory teaming up has been nothing short of amazing, and we have built something that I think is going to be very, very competitive, and more so, it's going to be impressive to everybody else around us. I'm very excited to announce that we're continuing a partnership with SpeedFactory with a current sponsor they already hold with one of their drag cars. At this time, I'd like to announce Vibrant Performance for the title sponsorship for 2014. Alright, I know you guys have been waiting a long time for this, and so have I. Stay tuned for the next episode of Made to Drift, where we finally hit the track.